Hey, good evening. We will call to order our December 3rd, 2020 virtual City of Kalamazoo Planning Commission meeting. Can we have the roll call, please?
Chambers?
Here.
Phipps?
Present from Kalamazoo.
Thank you. Chambers?
Present from Kalamazoo.
Freeman Wright?
Present from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Milliken?
Present in Kalamazoo.
Falco?
Present from Kalamazoo.
Pitts?
Present from Kalamazoo.
Bias? Absent. Wisner?
Present, Kalamazoo.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. We have an agenda in front of us. I believe there is a change to the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, so this evening we're going to be moving item F1, which is the new business item, to be H2, so on business. So the first order of business tonight will be G, public hearing, and then we'll move to the other two items, which are staff presentations.
Great. With that change, can I get a motion to adopt the amended agenda, please?
Move to adopt the new meeting minutes with a change.
Great. Motion by Phipps. Support? Support by Greenman Wright. Sorry, your hand first.
I'm sorry.
All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Also in our packet, we had the meeting minutes from November 5th, 2020 meeting. Were there any comments, questions, changes to those minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the November 5th, 2020 meeting?
Okay. I make a motion to approve the minutes for the 2020 minutes.
Great. Motion by Pitts. Support?
Support.
Was that? Sorry, I was support by Pitts. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. Are there any communications or announcements?
Not at this time.
All right. And with the adjustment to the agenda, we have no new business. So that will move us to public hearings. And as a reminder, in our virtual setup with the public hearings, the public will have an opportunity to comment on our public hearing this evening via voicemail. We'll ask you to call the phone number. I'll read it a couple times here. The phone number 269-226-6573. Please call the number and leave your message. And then during the public comment time in the request, we will play those messages that are relevant to that item. Later on in the meeting, under citizens' comments, we will play any comments that are left that are not related to any agenda items. So again, that phone number, 269-226-6573. So with that, if we can get the staff report on public hearing, which is PC 2020.17, the request for rezoning of 902, 912, and 920 West North Street and 715 Woodward Avenue from RM15 to LW1.
Thank you. I am going to provide you with a staff presentation. This is a city-led action. Just so often, you see a couple types of rezoning, one that's led by the city or one that's applicant driven. This one's kind of a hybrid. It's a bit of a partnership between the property owners, several which are on the call tonight if you have questions. But I'll give the overview of the rezoning request. So thank you, Chair Milliken. This is a rezoning action for 902, 912, and 920 West North Street, as well as 715 Woodward, from residential multifamily or RM15 to live work 1. It's kind of a big map, but I wanted to kind of point out where the properties are. This is North Street between Woodward and Staples. North Street is the division line between the Stewart neighborhood to the south and the North Side neighborhood to the north. And actually 2 blocks over, right here at the Douglas North intersection, we start the Douglas neighborhood. So this is a pretty busy area. And I zoomed out on the map so you could start to get an idea of all the different uses and buildings that exist along the North Street corridor. And that, you know, the flavor of it is not solely a residential street. So these properties, in June, there was a fire that destroyed all 4 of the structures on these lots. Those properties were demolished. And I know a couple of you have driven by, are in the process of being, the sites being cleared and prepped for development. Now, this is something that the city is working on. We have taken the responsibility. We did the demolition, and we're taking the responsibility for cleaning up the sites. Part of it is to make sure that we are supporting these property owners in order to make sure the sites are redeveloped as quickly as possible. So this gives you an idea of where the properties are and the zoning of the area. So you can see that it's mixed between commercial that pops up here and there along north, as well as residential zoning and some manufacturing zoning. So these properties are what the properties looked like prior to the fire. And I just wanted to kind of ground you in the types of structures that existed. What you have on your screen right now are 715 Woodward, and then you turn the corner to get to 902 West North. And so, you know, 902 West North was a very large multifamily building. I believe in the material that you got from Sharon Ferraro, because this is also in the Stewart Neighborhood Historic District. I believe there was a law office at one point in this building in the 50s as well, in addition to it being residential or multiple residential units. And these next 2 structures, the one on your left, the larger one is 912, and then on the corner was 920. Again, residential multiple structure buildings. So as I mentioned, you know, what's being proposed is a mixed use district, Live Work 1. So that allows a single family home. It allows a building with multiple units, and it allows mixed use. And staff believes that given the character of the north, I apologize for having it listed as avenue here, North Street, that is in line with what exists there today. And so here are some pictures starting from the east, right about where the trail crosses North Street. You do have some commercial uses like the auto body shop. There are multiple churches. The red food truck there, that owner has permission to do a food truck business in that location. And this is a 2 blocks down the street. As you move closer to the properties, you do have structures that are single family in nature. Some of them are divided into units, some of them are not. Of course, you have the Woodward School for Technology and Research directly across the street, including a very large parking lot. So half of the block is parking and half of it is the historic, lovely school building. And then just beyond this block, you get to the Douglas North Street intersection, where there are a variety of commercial businesses. So it really does go back and forth along the block. And when the property owners started to talk to us, particularly the owner of 902, about their ideas for redevelopment and the possibility of doing, both buildings that are apartment style buildings and that are commercial on the bottom and apartments above. That fits with the area. And especially with Live Work One, thinking about really focuses designed, looking at our existing city lots, understanding their size, and understanding, the right scale of things that blends into the neighborhoods. So on the bottom part of your screen, you have the picture of what is being considered for 902 North Street, and you received a letter from that property owner, and she's also on the call tonight if you have questions. And she is considering something that fits very well with Live Work One, a building that is built up to the street. It's 3 stories in height, which fits with the area. It has commercial and apartment on the ground floor, neighborhood scaled, as well as residential above. When you all and the City Commission consider a zoning request, here are some of the things that we talk about. And so first, is it consistent with the master plan and the strategic vision? And staff believes that it is. There are multiple strategic vision goals where the redevelopment of these properties are supportive of, including complete neighborhood, economic vitality, creating abiding public places, as well as shared prosperity, and supporting the owners of these properties to rebuild and serve their neighborhoods. Was there a change of conditions that requiring the zoning change? Yes. You don't often have a fire that takes out a whole block. And so that is definitely a change in conditions that presents opportunities. Does it address a stated community need? We need housing. These neighborhoods, the North Side neighborhood needs more housing options, as does Stewart and Douglas. So adding more housing in this area is absolutely met. There has been a lot of development on the North Side, specifically around, or a lot of activity on the North Side, in the North Side Cultural Business District area around NACD, and that is great. There hasn't been a whole lot of new projects over here. So this is also an opportunity to bring some new businesses, new buildings, new units in a part of the North Side where new development has not occurred recently. Would the new zoning be compatible with the surrounding land uses? Yes, both in scale as well as in use. And will it result in a logical and orderly development pattern? Yes, this does not require, this rezoning is not something that requires new roads or subdividing a block. We're working with the block that we have. And again, the zoning is really designed to work with the scale of the area. And I'm going to just go back for a second to this map so we can talk about it. There are 3 property owners between the 4 lots. All of, again, the city has spoken with them all, and we're kind of walking hand in hand through this rezoning and redevelopment project. The property owners themselves are working together to create opportunities for shared parking amongst them, so they can really think about how they can serve the units in those buildings, cut down on things like curb cuts or driveways, so the properties can be used efficiently, and really working together to create something that will be very special in this area. And so that's all I have for my presentation tonight. I'm happy to answer any commission questions. And again, I'll introduce, we have both Twala Lockett-Jones, as well as Rob, the owner of 902, as well as Robert Washington, who is the owner of 920. And I'm not sure if we have, I know that she was going to try and join tonight, but I don't for right now, the owner of 715 and 912. So the middle property and then the one on Woodward. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And Twala or Robert, would either of you like to say anything, or do you just want to be available for questions? If you would like to speak, please do and talk about your project.
Okay, well, I was just gonna be available for questions, but basically the drawing that you saw, the rendering is the rendering for our project at 902 West North Street. It will be a mixed use project. We are looking to have a community tea house on the main floor as one of the businesses, and also a Girls Build Kalamazoo program to teach skilled trades to girls in middle and high school. There will also be a ADA accessible unit on the main floor. And then on the next 2 floors, there'll be 4 units of housing on each level. So there'll be a total of 9 housing units in the building. We're also looking at 1 additional retail space on the main floor that's not designated for anything at the moment, but it could be rented or leased out to it'll be a small space. I don't have the exact measurements, but it'll be a small commercial space on the main level that could be rented out.
Great.
Thanks, Tuan.
Thank you. Any other staff or applicant comments? All right. If not, do the planning commissioners have any technical questions for staff at this time? Okay. Seeing, oh, Mr. Fitz.
Well, yeah, I guess I had one. I know Commissioner Anderson had mentioned something about the city helping with the cleanup, and there was something about parking. As far as like the cleanup part of it, when how long would that take, or when would that happen?
Sure. I believe at the last city commission meeting, the bid was accepted to do the work. So that should be on its way very shortly.
Okay. And my other question was, you mentioned parking as far as with the city parking with the other owners of the properties. What does that look like as far as that?
Sure. So that the exact design of it is definitely still in the works, and you know, the city is trying to support the property owners and having those discussions, and maybe, you know, working on some of the design elements. The middle property, 912, is the one that goes all the way back to Nola Street, which is the back of the block, and so that very deep parcel provides a large area for shared parking between the different uses. Now, our parking code allows you to use shared parking areas to count against the parking that you provide on site. And so this is a great opportunity to meet all the needs in one area.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other technical questions at this time? Ms. Chambers.
I had a question, and I guess we don't have the dimensions of how big her business and property that she was looking at, how big we're potentially looking at it. But would we have any space for homes? Because I know we want to change, we're working where the goal is to like see if they can get approved for the zoning, but what space will it leave if we wanted to add houses into this living workspace with her business?
Sure. So the project that 902 talked about is apartments, right? So it's apartments that come in the form of a mixed use building. The owner of 912 and 715, I believe from the conversations we've had thus far, is considering putting back in buildings that would be all apartments. And the property owner at 920, I think, is still considering options, but might consider something that includes a small commercial component. So all the projects are including housing, predominantly housing options, right? The buildings prior to the fire all had multiple units in them. I think I sent you, you all received information from Sharon Ferraro, Historic District, about, it was a little bit of information about these homes from the 1950s. Obviously, these homes are older than that, but they were all under common ownership in the 50s. Included anywhere between, I think, 3 and 11 units between the buildings, plus a law office. So, the form with the commercial on the ground floor is different than the structure that existed there before, but the type of unit is not necessarily any different.
So there would be
play off.
sorry. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So there could potentially, like, if one of the persons that lost a property, if they wanted to build a home, they could still put a home on that spot that they own if they wanted to.
Absolutely. That is kind of the beauty of the live work district, is it was designed to recognize that pattern that exists in a lot of places in Kalamazoo, where it goes back and forth within a block or block to block.
Mm-hmm.
And I can maybe try to ask a question in a different way to try to help clarify too. It's just a conceptual drawing. We're not approving it in any way tonight, but that conceptual drawing that was shown for 902, does that fit on the parcel of 902 itself?
It does. The architects used the live work district parameters nearly perfectly in sketching out that concept.
So that is just on the 902 parcel, leaving all of the 3 other parcels available for whatever else they might want to do. So great. Any other technical questions? Any other technical questions at this time? If not, let's open the public hearing and see if there are any telephone calls awaiting us.
Don, can you let us know if we've got any?
No calls at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Christina, have you received any written comments? Is that a surprise to you, or were you expecting calls? No.
No, not necessarily. We did not receive any written items outside of from the property owners themselves. Twala had spoken with the Stewart neighborhood to the south with their president, who discussed it at their board, and we heard nothing, no comments from that. And we've also spoken with Maddie Jordan Woods of NACD, and she had reported back no comments that she has received either.
That was going to be my next question. Was I know in the staff report you indicated something about the neighborhood conversation, so nothing came from those either. All right. I'm sort of vamping here for a minute, but with that, in the effort to be efficient, we will close the public hearing and move on. And I will accept a motion so that we can move into discussion. And remember, we are recommending here, so get back to the way to the beginning of the packet. The motion to recommend approval of the rezoning of 902, 912, 920 West North Street and 715 Woodward Avenue from RM15 to LW1.
Would anyone like to approve this? I guess, do we have to run by all the addresses again, or can we just approve it? Or
I think you can
Oh,
say, I will make that motion.
Okay, then. I will make that motion.
All right.
I will
Mr. Pitts
happily
has made a
support,
motion.
I will happily support
and-
Commissioner Pitts in this.
Right. So motion by Fitz, support by Wisner. All right. Now we can have some discussion on this. Thank you, guys. Mr. Pitts, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Well, because for me, when I first heard about the rezoning and the whole building project, I was really excited about it. I'm actually a person, I grew up on Staple Street, which is pretty much right there in that area. So I can remember days where I would walk to North Street and there would be like thriving businesses and everything in that area. And I can just remember how proud I kind of felt about that compared to how, when you walk down North Street now, you really don't see the businesses and the thriving community that was there years ago. So I myself personally, I think that it's a great idea for us to rezone this, and I'm really excited about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Well, I will throw in my 2 cents. I just state for the record, I agree with the staff report and its findings that the request is consistent with the ordinance requirements for rezoning requests. Just noting that it is a change of what's on the future land use map and the neighborhood plan, but I find that this is okay due to the significant change that's occurred to the property, particularly with that fire. But when we make the next round of amendments to the master plan or the neighborhood plan, we'll want to remember this and make that amendment at that time to correct that, or what will be a bit of an inconsistency. I would advocate, and I'm not gonna hold things up at all, but I would advocate in future situations like this, or even the next time we do any sort of rezoning work in this sort of surrounding area, we'll be left with a couple parcels in this block that'll be not Live Work 1. And so I think it would have been nice to do the whole block as Live Work 1 as opposed to like 75% of it. So I think I would advocate in a future situation like this to just go ahead and do the whole block, especially since this was mostly or the city was involved in this and it wasn't just an applicant-led or a citizen-led initiative. So that would be sort of my 2 cents going forward, but certainly not something that I'm gonna stand in the way of this endeavor at all. So a couple things there from me. Any other comments? If not, I think a roll call is in order then.
Wisner,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Patelko,
Yes.
Milliken,
Yeah.
Greenman Wright,
Yes.
Fitz,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Good work. So now we'll move on to H1, other business, PC 2020-19, a presentation on the 3-year master plan 2025 update.
And while Rebecca pulls up the PowerPoint, I just wanted to let the property owners know next steps. So this board obviously makes a recommendation. It'll go to the City Commission for review, and I will be in touch before in the next week, and we can determine. I'll give you dates, and we can talk about those details. So thank you very much for attending this evening.
Okay, I hope everybody can see the presentation, and I'll let Christina do the introduction. We also have several other city staff that will be participating in this presentation tonight. This way it's not just the planning department. Many of you may not have met our Shared Prosperity Coordinator, Kevin Ford, our Director of Parks and Rec, Sean Fletcher, Director of Public Services, James Baker, and our Foundation for Excellence Manager, Steve Brown, are all going to be a part of this presentation. So maybe you could just, as we're doing our slides, you can just introduce yourself before you give that portion of your presentation. Christina, you want to go ahead and let me know when you need your slides advanced.
So we're pretty excited here. We're giving this presentation tonight as well as to the City Commission on Monday. Technically, the birthday day was October 17th, for those of you that may remember that approval and that vote. So we're just we're celebrating a little bit late from that. And so we talk about this as, you know, Kalamazoo imagines and Kalamazoo acts. Next slide, please. And so what we're going to talk about is we're going to focus on the progress of the master plan. And I think this is really important. You know, we did not spend all that time and effort talking to the community to come up with a plan with goals and actions to not get through them in the life of the master plan. And so staff has worked really diligently to get through what's in there, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We'll also hear about FFE support of the actions in the master plan, some items specifically related to our COVID-19 response. We're going to talk about 2020 projects, have them organized always by our strategic vision goals. And then we'll quick little preview about 2021 projects at the end. Next slide, please. So master plan progress. Again, you've seen this slide before. It's certainly not one of our prettier slides, but the point is that we had a community conversation, and frankly, it never really ended. It paused briefly while we wrote the strategic vision and master plan, and then we've picked it back up to do all sorts of other plans and projects. That input from Imagine Kalamazoo, as well as best practices, information from our partners, went into the strategic vision that we wrote. Remember, again, that's that 30,000 view up document. It's got 10 specific goals, which then are all out for staff and every department to figure out how to implement. Community planning and economic development, kind of the keepers of the master plan, took those 10 goals and incorporated them into the master plan, organized the whole document around them. And then as we work on our 5-year plans, some of those ones that are listed below, all of those are aligned with what's in the master plan and what's in the strategic vision. Next slide, please. So the master plan had 136 actions. It covered 8 of the 10 strategic goals, and we have 8 years to finish it from when it was approved in 2017 to 2025. At this point, we are about a third of the way through, which is great because we're at year 3, and we have a lot in progress. So we're on track, which is great. We need to recognize that it's going to get a little harder as we go along, because a lot of the low-hanging fruit, the easy projects will get done. And so everything that is completed from here on forward are projects that probably took multiple years, multiple partners, and sizable dollars to start to get done. And so that's something we need to recognize as we inch closer to that end mark, and the number of goals that we've completed increases. Next slide.
Can I just add one thing, which is you see 18% of our goals, which are ongoing. And those are some metrics that we're going to give you tonight. Those are like tree planting, sidewalks that we've repaired or completed, streets, like many of the core services. But again, the master plan focused those core services in specific places that we had asked from the community, and that were also spelled out in subsequent neighborhood plans. And so because they're things that we chip away at every single year, They're not a goal that gets achieved in the same way. And so we're going to tell you about, miles of streets paved and, feet of sidewalks and numbers of trees and things like that so that you can see what kind of goal we're hitting each of those years.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn it over to Steve Brown, and he is going to talk about the Foundation for Excellent Support of the Master Plan and Strategic Vision Goals.
Thank you, Christina. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Steve Brown, and I'm the Foundation for Excellence Manager working with the city. This is my first time at Planning Commission, so I'd like to just start by saying it's been an honor to work since 2017 when the FFE was created with FFE's 15-member board of directors and all of our community partners. We're creating an organization that stabilizes the city's budget, lowers property taxes for all payers, no matter the rate that they pay, and funds major new aspirational projects that bring the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 vision and the master plan to life. We have a particular focus and mission as a foundation per our articles of incorporation to address generational poverty and invest in youth development and employment, as well as human and physical infrastructure. Today, about 25% of the city's general fund derives from FFE contributions. You can go ahead, next slide, please. So the map you see on the screen shows every dollar that's been invested so far. And to be clear, not just budgeted, but actually invested. So these are dollars that have a physical address in the city of Kalamazoo. Anyone can visit this and use it. It's an innovative tool that our communication staff worked on. It's part of the FFE website at kalamazoocity.org/FFE. And so you can sort by neighborhood, you can sort by year, you can sort by strategic goal, or simply just view a list of every project that has been invested in the city. The darker the part of the map, the more dollars have been invested. Other maps in this tool are about the tax reduction and savings that have accrued to taxpayers, and some information on the budget stabilization. So this evening, you'll see numerous projects that were made possible by the FFE. Those include the city's ability to invest in affordable housing and economic development, the repair and replacement of sidewalks, tree planting and planting, park improvements, youth development programs, and all of the city's neighborhood plans and shared prosperity Kalamazoo work have been made possible by FFE. Next slide, please. So one aspect of the FFE funded work that our community should be particularly proud of is that the FFE made a COVID response by the city possible. And those include 4 programs, which are on the next slide, beginning with the Disaster Relief Fund. And that was created in partnership with United Way of Kalamazoo and Battle Creek Region to support nonprofit and service organizations. It's similar to and works in tandem with the Urgent Relief Fund that's held and sponsored by the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And those are meant to basically help the helpers. So in a time of crisis, these are the organizations that were providing food, shelter, other basic needs to families in the city. The city was able to contribute 18% of all DRF dollars, which helped approximately 50 organizations in the city. And from this, we also worked with United Way to innovate what was called the Kalamazoo Small Business Loan Fund. And that was an emergency, very low barrier, 1% loan program that helped city businesses before state, federal, and other dollars were able to get in the community. So these were bridge dollars that really kept people employed and kept doors, if not open because of social distancing, then hopefully not closed forever. And that was $1.35 million that was lent to nearly 100 businesses, with a very sizable portion of those being women and minority-owned businesses. From that and from that learning, we also then, because of the economic development department's work with the city, were able to add the Kalamazoo Micro Enterprise Grant, which leveraged dollars from particularly the Consumers Energy Foundation to provide small grant dollars with a focused outreach on women and minority-owned businesses. Another aspect of our response was the Digital Access for All Fund, and that was completed in partnership with Kalamazoo Public Schools, Kalamazoo Public Library, The Promise, and the Kalamazoo Community Foundation and others, which purchased and made available 1,000 Wi-Fi hotspots with unlimited high-speed internet access for a year to Kalamazoo Public School learners, with a particular focus on those who had been identified for what are called the equity cohorts, which are groups that had among the concerns a need for physical environment, nutrition needs, English as an additional language learning needs, internet access, or had mobility and transportation or ADA challenges. Beyond that, we helped support 14 learning hubs, which were in a sense an enhancement or furtherance of that investment in learning. And that is targeting overall the ability to reach 400 learners at 14 sites. And those are going to be students who, even with Wi-Fi, even with some other supports, just really need that physical supportive learning environment, whether it's due to housing instability or other needs. So those are in total the 4 projects that to date, I should say, and of course we're not out of the woods by any means with COVID, that the Foundation for Excellence has made possible through City in 2020. And all the information on most of the projects that all the projects I've presented tonight and most of the projects you'll see tonight is in some way touched on by the annual newsletter, which is going to arrive in mailboxes in a couple weeks. We mail out about 30,000 copies of that every year directly to homes as part of our just information, transparency, and awareness initiative at the city. So finally, and I'll thank you very much for your time, I'd just like to really honor my 600 colleagues, the employees of the City of Kalamazoo, and our dozens of community partners who do all the work that you see day in and day out. It can't be said enough, and should be said more often that even during COVID, there were hundreds of city workers out there doing all this work, building partnerships, keeping this master plan and strategic vision going. And I'm proud to be part of the team, and just very glad and thankful for what you're going to see tonight as progress in these first third year of the work for the Imagine Kalamazoo plan. So thank you very much.
Okay, a couple of other things I'm going to talk about that we did for COVID. We both in the downtown as well as throughout the city, we have flexibly used both public space that you can see here, using parking spaces as well as the public sidewalk in downtown to really make it more available than it already was for gatherings, sales, and dining. The City Commission approved through end of March of 2021, the ability for businesses around the city to use their off-street parking spaces to increase their capacity during this time where businesses are limited. And so just a little way to add flexibility and capacity to our businesses. Next slide, please. And the other thing we really had to change was our engagement. And so we had a couple projects that were in progress when COVID started, including adult use marijuana. We've done several other projects, many of which we'll talk about tonight, but including some traffic calming work that required engagement. And so we had to change the way we did it. And public meetings became a little more of a challenge. We set up an engagement hotline, which is just another way for someone to call. They leave a message. We check it several times a week. They tell us what project they're leaving their message on. It gets to that project manager immediately. And it's an easy way for them to either give input or ask questions directly about what's going on. Since we can't do public meetings in the traditional sense, we've turned to virtual town halls, and we did those for adult use marijuana. We did it for the updates to Chapter 18 and 18A for housing. We did it for both NFP as well as downtown zoning. And it's kind of as interactive as we can be and do it in a virtual setting. The other thing that we've tried to do to get the word out and to seek input directly is we started in areas where it's not a huge expanse area, a ridiculous number of lots. We've created door hangers like these here that provide information on a project. These were specifically asking about a desire for traffic calming on a street. You could tear off that bottom half, drop it in the mail. You could send an email. Again, you could call the engagement hotline. Just how COVID has really kind of made us think about how many more ways can we allow people to reach out to us. Next slide, please. So the first strategic vision goal and activities we're going to talk about are complete neighborhoods. And there were 37 actions, of which 24 are complete, 27 are ongoing. Rebecca's kind of talked about what that means. And we have 24% in progress. So this one you are all familiar with. Downtown is one of our neighborhoods. The Town Life chapter talks about updating the zoning code in order to support housing options and economic vitality. And so that was work that was done the second half of this year and was recently put into implementation. Next slide, please. Neighborhood plans are also something that this body sees quite a bit of as you recommend their approval into the master plan. There are 7 adopted plans and 5, counting real quick, that are in progress now and will come before you in 2021. These neighborhood plans have really become an asset to our community. They are pulled out all the time for projects, especially when we're trying to make decisions on things like sidewalk repairs, street trees, zoning actions, and Katie Riley, our neighborhood planner, is going to come before you in January or February with a detailed presentation on how these plans are used and what are the actions, because I know that's something that you guys ask yourself, or it's a common comment when you review a neighborhood plan. This is lovely, but how are we going to use it, or how are we going to implement it? Katie's going to come and give you a detailed presentation on that beginning of next year. Next slide, please. So something else that's been going on in complete neighborhoods is it is time to update our inventory of structures in Kalamazoo, both ones that are designated historic and those that are just 50 years or older, which is a good chunk of the community. This is something that will provide us a wealth of information, not only for expanding historic districts if we choose to, but also just information about our structures and information on lots. So this is a lot by lot survey that we are working with. We received a grant from SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, to do this lot by lot survey and analysis in the Edison neighborhood. And we are working with volunteers to do the rest of the city. It did kick off this year, but COVID paused it. That work has just restarted and will continue into next year. So this is a pretty exciting project for us, which will yield lots of data and is a wonderful opportunity for neighbors to get out and safely walk and be social distance from other residents. So we're looking for volunteers too. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to James Baker, Director Baker, to talk about Connected City activities.
Yeah, thank you. We can advance to the next slide, please. Just summarizing Connected City, everything that kind of comes together that is the built network support, transportation, not only motoring transportation, but also the physical transportation, bike riding, walking, as well as our motorized support transportation or public transportation. Next slide, please. Several of the projects that we'd like to highlight and talk about are projects that have long duration design. Several of these were federal aid projects in that we receive supporting dollars from Federal Highway Administration through our Metropolitan Planning Organization, which locally is the Kalamazoo Area Traffic Study, also known as CATS. One thing that we are doing with majority of our CATS projects, or again, our federally funded projects, is we're using an asset management plan approach to look at the entire road cross section. If there's been changes in transportation and safety, a lot of things such as lane conversions. Now, this didn't apply to Oakland. Oakland was already a 3-lane cross section. Changes in pedestrian and bike infrastructure that we'd like to update and accommodate with the plan, meeting with neighborhoods and understanding how can we best utilize that public right-of-way space for transportation and safety as well. We also look at all the combined infrastructure within the roadway cross section. So we're talking about things like water main, storm and sewer, sanitary sewer, gas, things of that nature. Oakland Drive, we really wanted to highlight. We made some lane modifications. You might not be able to tell. Oakland Drive had bike lanes before, had bike lanes after. We did improve the bike lanes. They are now meet federal regulations for width. I don't know if anybody's ridden before or after, but the bike lanes are now wider in Oakland Drive than they used to be. We also incorporated a lot of pedestrian enhancements. You can see here we have a pedestrian refuge island that's been incorporated as well. Work actually started before this year when we actually came in and replaced all the lead services on Oakland Drive, had to replace in the main. The water main replacement on Oakland Drive actually it was a twofold benefit in terms of it's now additional transmission capacity that the water system has. We increased the number of hydrants, and we also now have, brought forward in terms of age and reliability. So depending on where we're at, the sections of water main in that section were extremely old. So overall, this is just a great project. And, there's a lot of benefits for what you see on the surface, but there's also tremendous benefits subsurface that we took care of as well. And again, using the asset management plan approach, we want to dig once and walk away from it after that. So the goal here is that we're not going to be out ripping up water main that just is sitting under a newly paved street. Next slide, please. Cork Street, a lot of the same approach went into that. A lot of work early on, very long duration design. This is a particular roadway where we switched the traffic operation in terms of a 4-lane cross section to 3-lane cross section. Overall, in the field of traffic engineering, we're seeing in urban environments, the odd number lane cross sections seem to perform better and at better safety margins than the even number lane cross section. So what I'm saying there is a 4-lane cross section where you have left turns happening from the inside lanes. We see a lot of rear end crashes and side swipe crashes as vehicles are realizing the car in front of them is now turning and stopped, and they're still progressing at 30 or 40 miles an hour. They then have to negotiate a lane change, and they may not see somebody in their blind spot, or that lane might be full and they might not be able to react in time. With the 3-lane cross section, all through traffic is moving more or less unobstructed. Right turns still occur from that lane, but most right turns just occur without having to stop. Then left turns are now protected, and overall crash and safety factors are improved. This then also gives us some additional space, if you will, where we can incorporate either on-street parking or bike lanes. In this particular project, bike lanes were selected, and this adds, just over 3.8 miles of new bike lanes to the city. And again, this is a project where there's a tremendous amount of underground work as well, all new transmission main installed. And there's also further east on the project, Davis Creek runs under Cork Street. And that culvert was undersized, over 60 years old, and starting to exhibit some corrosion-related failures. That culvert was also not sized for aquatic organism passage and had some hydraulic restrictions as well. So new culvert crossing, new railroad crossings, new water mains, and a whole new look for traffic that's really incorporates traffic safety and gets after kind of the goals and needs of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Some other work that we continue to progress along, again, it's very involved in the planning and design elements of it, as the downtown street design changes that we're taking into consideration. Most of the work this year centered around community engagements, and then to really kind of get the input of what the community wants to see. We've had several exercises where we had, the right-of-way width, whatever that is, say 100 foot or 66 foot, And then we give citizens the options of what do you want to see? So they can actually kind of stick on a piece of paper what they want to do in terms of street cross section. We then take that and create and develop a list of alternatives. We kind of created several alternatives. You're looking at 5 to 7 to 10 different alternatives. Engineering work at that point then evaluates every one of those alternatives to determine what the point of failures would be in terms of traffic operations. So we're looking at what details or what concerns we would have that would cause it, say, a traffic operational failure, and then what possible solutions can we employ to prevent that. And then that work is still occurring, and there'll be more public engagements as we move into 21. Next slide, please. City crews are doing a majority of our local street paving program. Majority of the major streets, of course, with our CATS program, a lot of that work is contracted out. City crews were able to pave just over 12 to 14 miles, and the majority, the difference, if you will, from 25.7 to that would be contractual work. But we crossed a major threshold this year for city crews in that they were able to pave just over 25,000 tons of asphalt, which is tremendous. And if you look around us, even cities that are bigger than us, how many cities are out there with their own crews doing their own paving? And this is just a great opportunity for us to be able to reinvest back into our neighborhoods and, make those dollars stretch. The dollars are pretty limited. And if we can do it with our own crews, we're saving dollars when we can do that. Next slide, please. Sidewalks. This is another program that, we're doing improvements every year, but the real benefit here, the real takeaway is the partnership that we've got with FFE. I know Steve Brown talked about the FFE involvement with sidewalk replacements, but this is something that we're really starting to see some major benefit to the community by doing these programs year after year after year. Certainly, very impactful year. Not quite a mile, but pretty close to it. We're starting to, we're within 1,100 feet thereabout of hitting a mile, and we've been all over. We spent a lot of time in the Oakwood neighborhood, East Side neighborhood, North Side neighborhood, spots in Edison. This is so impactful for homeowners. When you get a new sidewalk in front of your house, it's just a tremendous benefit. The benefit for walking to school, the benefit for being able to walk around your community is huge. We had a gentleman approach us at a neighborhood event, and he said, I'm out there every day in the wintertime. I maintain the sidewalk. I plow the sidewalk. The sidewalk is falling apart. It's old. It's hard for me to maintain it. And that's one of the sidewalks that was on our list to do this year. It's kind of touches on neighborhood node. It's got connectivity to a school, and we were able to get that work done. And that's just great investment back into the neighborhood. And it's something that we're able to do and continue to do through that support of FFE. Next slide, please. We also work in partnership with Metro Transit, really looking to improve bus stops where we can. We've kind of got a partnership in terms of they're doing the structures, or this one I think was a partnership between the bus stop, the city, and the parks department, kind of all coming together, and just any things that we can do out there to kind of help improve that total transportation network really helps everybody. Next slide, please. Work continues on KVRT. I think there's pretty high level goal. Eventually, we want to see connectivity south to Kilgore Road. There was, some pause in the work that was scheduled for this year. There's going to be another big section connected in cooperation with the Farmers Market project and Bank Street realignment. That was a project funded in 20 in components, and that's kind of coming together in 21 with some other funding components as well. Next slide, please. And at this point, I believe I'm handing it off
Sure, I'll take it, James. Thank you. This is gonna be something that I think Sean and I are gonna share. Environmental responsibility, because environmental responsibility touches a lot of different projects, for a goal of getting a green and healthy city. Next slide, please. So, although James, you certainly could speak to this, a lot of the work that the Public Services Department has done is, working within our right of way to make sure that our tree canopy is healthy and that we're increasing it. And so that by the end of this year, we'll have 150 street trees planted. We are working to increase that number in future years. And part of that work was a grant that we received to do a tree inventory. So we understand which species are out there and what their health is. So we can make wise decisions for plantings in the future. Next slide, please. So the sustainability strategy, this is a document that should culminate with a report this winter. But while it's still in its engagement and writing phase, there's been lots of action projects that have gone on, including a compost pilot project that was done in conjunction with city staff and a student from K College. The compost pilot project collected 104 gallons of food waste. It was a partnership also with the Vine neighborhood. That's where the pilot location was run in late summer. And so, very successful, good test to see, how this is something that might be able to be scalable in the city in the future. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it over to Sean.
Yeah, this one is me. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. We used a company this year called Tending Tilth, and they have a lot of sheep, and they brought sheep to a couple different parks. One was Mayor's Riverfront Park, and we used them also at Spring Valley Park. And sheep will eat just about anything, especially invasive species. And we have in a number of areas, some problem areas that we call them, that year in and year out have a lot of invasive species and a lot of things that we really don't want. So we kind of ran this as a pilot program this year, and it was really cool, very successful. Instead of running machinery and using fuel, we were able to use the sheep. And so worked out pretty well. And we're looking to expand this to future years, because to us, it just makes a lot of sense, and especially from an environmental standpoint.
And I'll take it from here on safe community. Again, there's a lot of the work that the city does across multiple departments that touch on a lot of these community goals. And, transportation and safe transportation, certainly there's a safe community aspect to that. We've also got connected cities and a transportation component to that. Water is hugely important as we talk about safe community. Next slide, please. Traffic calming. We've been engaged in traffic calming in the city very recently here. A few years ago, we started out with some pilot projects utilizing some speed humps that were procured and installed within the roadway. We had 3 installations within the city, and we were in the process of learning how those worked and what different roadway geometry and traffic situations made them perform better than others, or some locations seem to perform better and others not as well. We also have speed radar units that we've got all installed this year. They were funded last year, and they're all now up. And those are speed radar indicators that as you drive, the posted speed limit is shown, and then your speed is shown as well. Those also collect data that helps us understand traffic flows and volumes, as well as what average speeds are doing within those roadways. We also this year kind of kicked off a new project in the North Side neighborhood, installing 5 speed humps, and these are more conventional speed humps. We got away from the plastic installed units, and those are still out there, but these are actually incorporated in the paving work that the city crews were doing out on some streets that either were already scheduled to be paved or, had fit kind of ideal models of roadway geometry and cross streets. And so we've got some work done. There's more work to do. And we'll be out next year studying a new area and doing some of the same engagement processes that we did this year as well. Next slide, please. Lead service replacements, 545. Our goal is 500 annually. And, we're going to be starting to ramp that up. We've got a pretty large scale project in the east side neighborhood that also stretches into Eastwood in Kalamazoo Township. That work just got kicked off around September timeframe. So those numbers are really starting to ramp up. That contract is going to continue in through next year. And then we've got some more work that we're going to be doing in some other neighborhoods. I'll be talking a little bit more about this when we talk about our CIP plans for 2021, and also be demonstrating kind of an interactive website that we have at that time. And one thing you see when I switch over and start talking about the capital improvement plan, our number on that slide is 547. And so it's just how quick the data is coming in and the work that we're doing. So this number will go up as the year goes by. We're getting real-time numbers on the work that we're doing. Lead service replacement is not something that stops. It doesn't start in the summer and then stop in the fall, which is a little bit different from road paving. We actually perform lead service replacements throughout the entire year. So it's kind of hard to tell or report out, what our final number is, because the numbers will keep increasing all the way through December 31st. Next slide, please. We've been doing a lot of work with the neighborhood team, community planning, and economic development team on safe routes to school, really with a focus on increasing pedestrian safety. We just learned today that a lot of that work is paying off and realized the city was awarded a competitive grant for some pedestrian and other improvements, really focusing on traffic and everything else. So again, great work that's being realized, and it does take some time, and that's one of the things that this is a good opportunity to talk about that. From idea through completed and in the ground can often be longer than we'd all like. But there's funding sources out there. We've got to continue to communicate, and we've got to continue to do this great work. And like we see with the tree planting, like we see with the sidewalk programs, and like we see with a lot of these programs where we're starting to get into it, we're doing more and more, and we're going to start doing it year after year after year. 1 year, 2 years into it, we might not be doing enough, but 3, 4, 5, 6 years into it, that momentum is going to start to build, and we're going to continue to do it and continue to invest and continue to make these neighborhoods safer. Next slide, please. And at that point, I'll pass it off.
Rebecca, is this me? I'll kick it off.
Yeah.
Economic vitality then. Focused on growing businesses and stabilizing the local economy to benefit all. And there's been a lot of work in 2020 to support economic vitality in Kalamazoo. Next slide, please. So one of the more exciting projects, and one that is particularly exciting because it happened during COVID, was a launch event that was held for a property that the city, Bromfield owns, 501 Northwest Nedge, the building that is pictured here. And so there was a launch event to raise interest in someone to take over and renovate and do create this building into some great asset for the great asset in the North Side neighborhood. And so this, the RFP recently went went live, and we've already started to get some great responses. And so this was pretty exciting. And our Brownfield staff and neighborhood staff spent a lot of time working to get this event off the ground, and it was really well received. It was a pretty neat way of building interest for taking over a building. Next slide, please. So this is some information on our some of the small business grants that we have supported over the last year. And so we're really looking at making sure that our small businesses, especially our neighborhood businesses, are able to be very flexible in this time of COVID, but also just to open new ones and grow and change. We have small technical support for new businesses, as well as up to obviously very large dollar amounts for bigger projects. We've also been able to capitalize on the funds we have for strategic site acquisition. So we can take over, the city can help put sites in the hands of the community to grow and build and make it something very special. Next slide, please. I will turn it over to Sean Fletcher.
Okay, I am going to speak about a couple topics regarding youth development. Again, I want to say thank you to our city staff, and especially Steve Brown and Laura Lamb for they always keep us in mind as far as youth development. And as many of you probably know, I feel very strongly investing in our youth, and we're able to do that through the Foundation for Excellence. And obviously the city is very supportive of youth development as well. So next slide, please. So COVID didn't completely stop us. We were able to run a modified super rec program. We had to run at 50% capacity based on the COVID-19 guidelines that were in place at the time. But we did run those programs with the safety protocols in place. Parents were very thankful that we were able to offer something. And it wasn't what we wanted, but it was something. And I think that was very important. We were outside as much as possible and just kept the kids busy and active. And it turned out to be a very good summer for the limited amount of kids that we could serve. Next slide, please. So we are actually in the process of forming a youth council that will advise our department on programs, activities, events, and really are going to make this their council. We want them to run it. We want them to take it in the direction that they want to go. We want to know what they want from us. And I see this probably expanding into other areas for the city, but we wanted to get them started on Parks and Recreation because we really want to know what they want from us, and we will take those ideas and move those forward whenever we can. And applications are due December 11th. If you need more information on that, you can certainly go to the KZoo Parks website, or if you have a couple questions I can answer, certainly send me an email. Next slide, please. And I get to hand it over to Kevin Ford now.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Planning Commission, for having myself and my colleagues here tonight to present to you all. My name is Kevin Ford. I am the coordinator for Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo. And I want to talk to you about a couple projects that SBK supported out of 5 projects total local programs. We can go to the next slide. So the first one is the Patient Care Academy. This was a Northside-based workforce development program. You see the little icon in the corner, neighborhood plan and work is identified in the neighborhood plan that folks wanted access to employment training opportunities that were neighborhood based. So this was actually a pilot program ran out of NACD. Awesome partnership between NACD, Kalamazoo Promise, Bronson, Michigan Works, MCTI, and the city to launch this Patient Care Academy. It improved access to in-demand career training in the healthcare field. It actually leveraged other dollars and resources as partners came to the table and provided the resources needed to complete this Patient Care Academy. 6 out of 8 of the first program cohorts graduated and got their CNAs employed in the field. So this was, again, a pilot program, is the first of its kind. So we're very proud and excited that we were able to assist in doing that. Next slide, please. The other program that was assisted by SBK was a volunteer income tax assistance, the VITA program. This is a free program intended to help low to moderate income folks access tax credits and tax refunds. So child care tax credits, home tax credits, earned income tax credits. And so we supported that through KRESA and expanded sites in the SBK target neighborhoods, East Side, Edison, and North Side. And 661 residents were served. That was out of a total of over 1,200. So over half were served in our target neighborhoods with refunds amounting up to $807,156. $807,156, and that's out of a total of 1.4 million. So it's a good financial windfall for folks in our target neighborhoods to be able to access those tax credits. Next slide. So 2021 projects we're excited about. So for those that don't know, SBK was originally conceived and formed out of a concern for poverty, high rates of poverty in our city, specifically high rates of child poverty. And so in 2021, we're excited to be really like rebuilding and getting back to our roots and trying to serve whole families in our target neighborhoods of East Side, Edison, and North Side. So this graphic you're looking at is out of ASEAN, the Aspen Institute. It's a two-generation graphic, which focuses on the whole family. So we're excited to really get back into that and get deeper into supporting families in those 3 neighborhoods in 2021 and building out some partnerships to do that more effectively. Next slide. Inviting public places. I don't know who I'm gonna hand it off to, but thank you for your time again.
So I think this is me. This is probably one of my favorite areas because we get to do a lot of investment in parks and recreation, but obviously some other cool things as well, including placemaking, arts and culture, and partnerships. So exciting stuff, I feel. Hopefully you feel the same. Next slide, please. So this is probably one of my favorite transformations in the park system. Those of you that remember Reed Street previously, it had a park rule sign, a single grill, I believe, a really old, small, bad piece of playground equipment. And as you can see, we've added a walking path, a basketball court, a small shelter, and a great new piece of playground equipment. We met with the folks that live in the area of Reed Street to get information from them about, what their desires were. And we had quite a few neighbors come out. And as you can see, it's an incredible transformation. The park is very busy. And we recently learned that one of the gentlemen that lives in the neighborhoods credits the walking path to drastically improving his health because he is in that park walking most days. So very excited when people tell us those stories, but this is a great transformation. It just kind of shows the potential there that we can make these parks better and make places better for our citizens. Next slide. So Bronson Park is recently completed with some plantings and such. This is the culmination of about 5 years of work. We have new furniture, some new lawn panels. We moved all the markers and memorial markers in the park to the memorial pathway that is on the east side of the park. So we really organized those markers. Several of the markers you wouldn't know they were there unless you stumbled across them. And now we have a map that kind of tells you where they're at and what they represent. We have some kiosk signs. We moved the children's sculptures and organized those as they were meant to be and intended to be. And the stele, which was also in the west reflecting pool. So great changes. Of course, this is a great time of year to go to Bronson Park. The lights are up, the decorations are up. We invested more in some of the lighting, so it looks really fantastic. But come springtime, it'll look even better. So hopefully you get a chance to go take a look at the lights and then go back and see it in the spring. Next slide, please. So the Florence Street splash pad essentially got a refresh this past year. It got new surfacing, some new spray features. It also got some new plumbing, which makes it operate more efficiently and saves a little water. So it kind of ties into that environmental sustainability as well. But really got a nice refresh. And on the hotter days, it was really, really busy there. So really nice enhancement for that spray pad. Next slide, please. I don't know that this one is me, but it's right along Davis Street Park. This young person did a fantastic job on this mural. It's on the, let's see, it's a north-facing wall. So as you're driving along that side of the road, you can see that mural. It's really cool, just a nice enhancement to Davis Street Park. This is not me.
Can talk about it real quick. So, inviting public places is on a goal in our neighborhood plans. The Oakwood neighborhood, very much, their neighborhood center is a little bit hard to find. It's a block or two in from the roads that are on the boundary of the neighborhood. And so one of the things that was very important to them was to get some wayfinding signs to that great asset. And so this is something that was in the neighborhood plan and were installed in conjunction with public services and planning using the quick win dollars that neighborhoods unlock when they do neighborhood plans.
Okay, back to me. We have been working quite hard on the farmers market renovation. Over the past several years, we've been purchasing some properties. We purchased the former MRC building, which will be a new parking area. For those of you that attend the market, you know that parking is not the greatest as it is currently, but the new farmers market site will have north and south parking areas that will be striped and that will obviously very, very much improve the parking as it is, compared to as it is now. We will get new vendor sheds, all new roofs. One of the primary issues at the market is water dripping on the vendors, so from the roof's edge, so we'll fix that. We will get a new restroom building that will double the number of restrooms. That is actually the #1 complaint that we got regarding the farmers market when we obtained input from our residents. The market renovation will also include the realignment of Bank Street, and we will have the KRVT will actually run from the south end of Upjohn Park, and will run past the farmer's market and eventually get you down to Reed Street via Reed Court. So that will happen as part of the market improvement. We're working hard right now to get through site plan review, and we will, our plan is to get the project out to bid late this month or early part of January, with construction hopefully getting started in April of 21, and to do everything we want to do as far as all of the site work, the new vendor sheds, the new restroom building, the new parking areas. That would take roughly a year, and that's, of course, as most of you know, that's always contingent on how the weather behaves as well. So we'll see how that goes. Next slide.
Okay, so this next deck of slides, Strength Through Diversity, I'm going to assist with presenting. So Strength Through Diversity isn't a typical goal that you see in master plans, right? A lot of the presenters that we've just heard from, we talked about very physical projects, some policy items, you know, the zoning code and some things like that, but you know, most of the time we aren't talking about equity and diversity. We talked a little bit about youth development. So Strength Through Diversity made us a pretty unique master plan. But it was truly in our listening through Imagine Kalamazoo what people asked for. We talked about making sure there's opportunities for all, above and beyond just what our shared prosperity coordinator, Kevin Ford, spoke about, but also, you know, how are we being inclusive in our planning? What are we doing in our engagement that truly gets out and engages people and doesn't just invite them to come to, you know, City Hall, but are we getting out in the community engaging? What kinds of inclusive opportunities and welcoming opportunities are we doing in our planning processes? How are people feeling accepted? Are we reducing bias? Are we increasing acceptance among people from all cultures and all backgrounds within the city, internally and externally? So I want to be clear that the things I'm going to cover in here are not only work that we're doing in the community, but also work we're doing internally within the city with our own staff. So first, and this is something that, you know, if I could, I would high five Attorney Robinson for, we worked really hard with both Vice Mayor Patrice Griffin and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer Dorla Bonner to pass a fair housing ordinance, which is Chapter 18 and Chapter 18A. This established a civil rights board for the city, which we've had our first meeting, which is so exciting. And we've all gone through fair housing training as well as civil rights training for that board. And this has created new protected classes for the city that is really important, especially as we talk about fair housing. So I encourage you to, I think December 23rd is our next Civil Rights Board meeting. They are public. If you are curious about the work that we're doing there, I invite you to, you know, make sure you're looking at the other boards and commission agendas and join us for one of our meetings. It's going to be an incredible journey. Next was, of course, you're all very familiar with the adult use marijuana policy. And that was another piece. The social equity portion of that adult use marijuana policy increased benefits to Kalamazoo residents who are going to look at business opportunities within marijuana, you know, especially those within our shared prosperity census tracts. We talked about the zoning that allows, you know, a decrease in buffering distance, reduced fees for those business owners, as well as the community benefits agreement and how it benefits the neighborhood as well. Christina, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything to that? Okay. Yeah, but I mean, you guys were the body that really did a lot of that great work. And so I know you're quite familiar with that. A few additional actions, and again, some of these are very internal to the city and others are external, but right now we're working on an internal equity audit. We're working on hiring a firm that really looks at all of our human resource practices, policies, hiring. How can the city become a more inclusive organization? You know, we can't really push much out to the community unless we make sure that we're good internally first. We've held several opportunities for erase trainings for leadership and all staff. I believe all of our leadership has gone through this, even the commission as well. Listening sessions have also been held for leadership and staff, and this has been, I can't underscore how the stress and the pressure of not just COVID, that certainly exacerbates everything, but the murder of Mr. Floyd, the protests, the unrest that was happening in the country, and how that affects city staff as people and how we show up to work every day in our community was a really important moment. And I'm really proud to say that I work for an organization that took that seriously and took the time to, let staff be able to talk about it and to meet one-on-one, to be able to meet in peer groups, to be able to meet in safe spaces, and be able to process that together and apart. And that continues to happen and has continued to happen throughout the year. In fact, I just participated in even parenting in the time of the pandemic. So again, doing a lot of internal work and making sure that city staff are okay as we also interact with the community. We're also going to work on collecting data on a lot of our city programs as well. Again, that goes back to that internal equity audit. What is it that we're able to do? Kalamazoo is also looking at, in terms of a community-wide asset, a lot of folks are calling these an equity atlas or an equity mapping exercise. And so Kalamazoo is working on its own equity profile and policy with the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, and that's in partnership with Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation with the TRHT group. So there's a lot of work going forward in the city of Kalamazoo and our partnerships with TRHT and others. And so again, I encourage you to take a look into what we're doing. We're trying to be really public about it and transformational about the work that we're trying to do with the Civil Rights Board. And so there's lots of other opportunities for you to be able to participate. Lastly, these are some memberships that the city has found extremely important in terms of our forward equity work and inclusion work that we're also doing. And so, having a cohort and having peer-to-peer discussions and networking is really important, right? You can't do this work in a vacuum. You've got to have peers and you've got to have a cohort. And so as a city, again, we're taking the strides forward necessary in order to make sure that we're doing the work, right. And so lastly, what we want to cover just really quickly with you is just kind of sum up, like, okay, great. That's all the work that you're doing. What's next? You guys have done a lot of, we've done a lot of talking about these projects. So in 2021, Sean already spoke about the farmers market, and Director Baker talked about the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail expansion. We do have another possible project at another park, maybe. We've got another spray pad installation in a North Side Neighborhood Park. I believe that's Lacrone Park. And then we're installing some bike racks in Vine in the commercial node, hopefully in 2021 as well. And we're going to have a lot of other programs and projects we hope to be able to present to you. You know, COVID notwithstanding, we still come to work every day and we keep trying to move these projects forward. And we just really appreciate everything that the Planning Commission is doing right now. This is Imagine Kalamazoo. This is the master plan. This is your baby. This is your document. And we hope that you have found this really informative and know that we are working really hard to push these goals forward. It's not often that a city actually achieves its master plan, and we are doing so intentionally. So I just want to thank you for all of your hard work too, because you've created our work plan. So thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. I just want to say, obviously we've complimented and thanked you guys over the past few years as we've had opportunities with Imagine Kalamazoo, and again tonight, demonstration of what a great product that is, and your commitment to the vision is tremendous. But I really want to give a lot of thanks and a hearty round of applause to the rest of the city staff and to the city leadership for your commitment to the plan, to its vision, and to its implementation, demonstrated tonight with Steve and James and Sean and Kevin, your participation in the meeting, your being here, taking time out of your night to share with us what you've done. I think that's just tremendous, and it's just a great demonstration of how the city has a shared commitment to this community-led plan, and that is really rare. And when that happens, you get great products out of it. Usually by year 3, a community has forgotten about its plan or is beginning to think about the next master plan.
Right.
But here, you guys are thinking about, we are going to do everything that it says in this plan. And that is fantastic. And it's because of that commitment of everyone in the city staff, not just the planning department, but everybody. And that's leadership included. So thank you. And please share that with everyone else. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? I didn't mean to jump right in on top of you guys, but it sounded like you guys were done. Probably needed a water break. And it did not look like any action was needed from us on that. Is that correct? All right. Well, with that, I think we can move on to the next item. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the next item, there will be action afterwards. We are asking that you recommend to the City Commission the approval of the capital improvements plan. Director James Baker will be giving this presentation. Thanks to all the other staff that participated in the Imagine Kalamazoo presentation. You are welcome to stay and listen if you would like, or you can catch the recording later. And I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to let Director Baker speak to you in detail about the capital improvements plan.
Yes, thank you, Planner Anderson. And, to kind of introduce this, for everybody's knowledge, the capital improvement plan of the city, there's a necessary procedural element in that this comes before the Planning Commission, before it comes to the City Commission. That being said, this is included within the city's budget, which was transmitted to the City Commission on December 1st. Again, the action by the City Commission will be forthcoming. So just wanted to give that kind of perfunctory introduction to the action, and I believe there will be action then tonight with this element. So next slide, please. So the capital improvement plans that we're really talking about are specific by fund within the budget. And what this does not include, and what I'm not going to talk about tonight, is FFE specifically, and then there's all some other various partnerships and things that the city may be involved with that could have projects here and there. So kind of talking through each one of the funds and kind of what they do. We've got general fund, which is kind of all of the city. And then we have some restricted funds, which are our streets funds. That's major and local streets, water and wastewater. The majority of the work within general fund, that's going to be things such as your facilities, parks improvements, heavy equipment and fleet, as well as, IT and the, overall infrastructure that helps to, make the city operate and provides the facilities in which we do that in. Looking at the streets fund, specifically, we have a major streets fund. Those are for major streets in Kalamazoo. And then we have local streets. Those streets are all funded through what we call a gas tax. That's through Public Act 51. When you go to the fuel pump and pump gasoline into your motor vehicle, a portion of that sale goes back to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan then distributes those funds to local road agencies based on population and the amount of miles of streets they have under their jurisdiction. And those funds are limited in that we can't spend street dollars on non-street functions. Water and wastewater fund, again, this is a enterprise fund within the city. Those dollars exist separately from the general fund, and they're entirely funded through rates. So, as you use water, the water goes to your meter, you pay a rate for that. And then that provides for the operation and maintenance within that fund, as well as all the capital improvements of that fund. And the major focus of work within water and wastewater is, increased capital investment to renew and replace infrastructure, as well as maintain regulatory compliance and improve water quality and improve environmental conditions as well. Next slide, please.
Oops.
So before you, this kind of gives you some perspective on the different funds and how much investment we're doing per year within the different funds. So looking at general fund, it's about $6.7 million. The major streets component, about $6 million. Local streets is $1 million. Earlier, when we were talking about the IK 2025 and the work city crews were doing on local streets, I made a comment about some limited funds and stretching those dollars. We've got approximately 161 miles of local streets in the city, and we've got $1 million a year to pave new streets. So those funds are pretty limited. Drinking water infrastructure, pretty large investment. We're making some huge investments in infrastructure. You can see $37.4 million. A lot of work going on in water. We spoke a lot about lead services. We're going to get into that. That is a major expense or investment within that fund. And there's many other components as well. Wastewater, most of the investment that we're talking about in wastewater is at the treatment plant. There's also some investments going on in sewers. But again, there's some major elements of the treatment plant that are nearing that kind of 40, 50 year age where investment is pretty critical. Next slide, please. So kind of highlighting some of the work that's going to occur within general fund this next year. You saw during the previous presentation a lot of discussion surrounding the farmers market redevelopment. There's also some coordination with streets to realign Bank Street. So there's a bit of a problematic intersection where those streets come together, and so that the profile of that property is going to change. There's also a trail component that's going to come in to play with that. There's facilities investment throughout the city, the various city buildings. investments for radio infrastructure, for IT equipment, servers, that kind of thing. Continued investment in playground equipment by Director Fletcher and his group. We also have heavy equipment and fleet. That's things like dump trucks that are used in the streets department, but they're funded by general fund to make those initial purchases. One of the projects that I also want to highlight was the Millen Park dam removal. That project has been bid and awarded. The contractor is ready to go. There's some limiting factors in terms of the Eagle permits that the contractor has or the city has to do that work. And there's actually prohibitions in place on when that work can occur in accordance with seasonal prohibitions. So that project is ready to go, but it's not going to start until the spring because of those seasonal prohibitions. Next slide, please. We've kind of combined major streets and local streets to kind of talk about all of them together. One thing that we will be transitioning to this year in 21 is really trying to focus on preserving pavement life when, the street hasn't gotten to the point of failure yet. So we're trying to invest some dollars earlier in the street's life where we're going to try to extend that street life out further. So really the mechanism that we're looking to do that is a chip seal with a fog seal on top. That's where we come with some emulsion and put that down. It looks like blacktop. And then on top of that would be a really fine aggregate. And then on top of that again would be, another layer of emulsion. What that does, that seals the pavement. It makes it watertight again, so water can't go into the cracks and tear the pavement apart any further. And it provides a nice surface that, you can ride and walk and bike and drive on. We've got some examples in the city that we've done that already. Burdick Street from Stockbridge all the way south to Cork Street was done that way a few years ago. It's holding up very well. And we're going to be doing a lot more work throughout this year on local streets with that. There'll be 27 streets that we're either going to pave or preserve. That's our goal. Some of the major streets that we're going to be doing, these are going to be, major frustrations in terms of driving around. Last summer, everybody dealt with, and we thank you much for that. Oakland Drive and Cork Street was kind of out of service and very frustrating for drivers nearly all summer. Well, this year it's going to be Parkview, Portage, and Miller are kind of the major components, and Emerald as well. And then there's a spot on Oakland Drive right near Angling Road where we've got some storm sewer failures that we need to do a total closure to open that up, redirect some stormwater. Next slide, please. Most of the work for wastewater, like I talked about, is going to be actually at the treatment plant. We're going to continue and fund another year of work that's focused on the solids handling process upgrade. We've got centrifuges that are going to dewater the cake as opposed to belt filter presses so that they're more efficient. They're going to create a drier product so we're not hauling as many trucks to the landfill. We're also installing 4 carbon scrubber units throughout various processes at the treatment plant. The carbon scrubber unit that you see in the picture connected to the solids handling facility, that is now operational. So that unit is up and running. The other 3 units are going to be connected to the buildings with the fiberglass intake plenums. You kind of see that kind of big, long gray snake that goes from the carbon scrubber unit into the building. That component has got some temperature sensitivity to when that construction can occur. So those units just weren't able to get completed during this year, and that will continue. Another big process upgrade that will start in 2021 that's going to continue after that is the tertiary process upgrade. And the tertiary process is the last of several processes at the wastewater treatment plant that actually filters all the final effluent that's gone through the biological process and provides one more mechanical filtering process before then it goes through another final chemical process. The tertiary system that we've got in place right now is over 40 years old. It's exceeded its useful life, and we'll be going to a new filter system that's going to be easier to maintain and operate as well. We'll be doing some sanitary sewer replacements and some trenchless rehab. And another big project really to kind of highlight and talk about is the biofilter. What this does is it building a foul air collection system that's going to induce a negative atmosphere on all the sewer interceptors as they come into the treatment plant. Now, these sewer interceptors are pipes, but they're really large pipes. We're talking 4.5 feet to well over 6 foot in diameter. And those pipes operate with anywhere from half to a third to 2/3 full of sewage at one time. And there's a lot of what we call headspace in those pipes that collect hydrogen sulfide gas, as well as some other compounds that can be very odorous. What the biofilter system is going to do, it's going to pull all that negative atmosphere, that foul air, and it's going to bring it up into a biofilter system, which is provides a media bed that has organisms in it that are designed to break down and treat those foul airs. Next slide, please. Talking about the drinking water system improvements, this is the biggest component of the capital improvement plan. We've got water main extensions that will continue to occur in Cooper Township and Richland Township. We've got lead service line replacements that are continuing to occur on Eastwood, Kalamazoo Township, and Eastside, Kalamazoo City. That work's going to continue on. We've got a water tower that we're currently building in Texas Township. We just poured the foundation for that. And everybody's probably aware of what the foundation in their house looks like. The foundation for a water tower is, 15 to 20 feet thick of concrete, and it's a tremendous pour. So that work is going to continue. You'll start to see the vertical elements of that tank take place. Anybody that's driven on 131, kind of near 94, going north or south up into the city, has probably seen our new Siesta water tower. It's got the Kalamazoo Promise logo on it. That just became operational this year around the June timeframe. So that was one of our water tower jobs that we had just finished up on. There's going to be a lot of treatment plant station improvements. We're going to be going after corrosion control optimization. That's kind of the next step. We're feeding corrosion control right now, and we have been for a long time. In fact, Kalamazoo has fed a corrosion control product since 1956. We're taking that to the next level. We're actually going to optimize that. So there's going to be changes in automation, changes in control, and changes in some of the chemical processes that we use. We're also going to be really increasing system reliability by running what we call the 33rd Street Loop. With that project, we'll be able to hydraulically connect the high pressure district to the east side pressure district, or east side high district. And what that allows us to do is utilize pump stations or well fields in other districts to bring water into or out of the city, as well as gives us the ability to use more water towers that are in other districts to bring water into or out of the city. Another thing that I wanted to highlight is that when we're completed at the end of 21 with our what we call Kalamazoo East lead service replacement project, we're going to be transitioning over to our Kalamazoo North lead service replacement project. I also kind of want to highlight our interactive website that shows where we're at in terms of lead service replacements. And if I could ask you to click on that link.
You probably can't see it. I'm going to have to reshare it, right? Let's see. we go. Is that coming up for you, James?
Yeah, yep, that's coming up. So I just kind of want to go through the different areas. You see the bar charts over towards the left. That's showing our current progress of how many replacements. You see that we really started to kick off late 2016, early 2017, where we're kind of consistently hitting about 500 replacements per year. The large project that we're doing right now, that's if you look at the map on the right, it's the blue shaded region. We're going to be there focused and continuing to do replacements there until we're 100% done with all lead services in East Side and in Eastwood. And then we're going to move over to what we call the Kalamazoo North project. But if you look at all those little dots are corresponding to a year, you can see where we've completed our work and what year we've done those replacements. This project map is kept updated. You can view it through the link. It's linked to the city website. You can view it on a mobile device. I will say if you are viewing it on a mobile device, there's little expanding windows that you can click on, and then you'll be like all in the map, and you can get some really fine detail on that, or you can be on the bar charts or anything else. So thank you, Christina. If you could take us back to the capital slides.
Are you seeing them?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And then next slide, please. Now, I did want to spend some time talking about our Kalamazoo North lead replacement project. And the work is really going to start to occur really in 2022. There's project awards and there's funding mechanisms and things that have to happen in 21 at the last quarter. You know, we're talking November, December of 21. But really in terms of starting the work and seeing the work, it's really going to start in 22. However, we've got to have a public hearing for this project. We've got to get out and communicate to the community and hold public meetings in the first quarter of 2021. So our funding application is due in May of 21, but we've got to have those public meetings done well in advance to get that funding application in. We're going after some dollars that the governor has set aside for Michigan infrastructure. We're using the drinking water revolving loan program as an application process or application mechanism to get after those dollars. This is a very large project. Really from the map, it would essentially be from somewhat like Kalamazoo Avenue North, from the river west, from the Kalamazoo Township line south, and then from Nichols Road east. Next slide, please. At this point, we're pretty much into what we would call like the line item projects. And I provided this information for everybody that you can go and spend some time with this. You can go down line by line and see every project and understand it. I just spend a little bit of time just on this first page here to kind of acclimate everybody to, kind of what this sheet is showing us and how to navigate it. So across the top, you want to find the year 2021. So that's the year that we're talking about. Those are the projects that are going to be funded with dollars in 2021. And then anytime you see, dollars show up in 2021, you can kind of scroll over to the left and see the name of the project. These projects are all grouped by department and by fund, and then they progress out to 2025. So you can kind of see that, 4 to 5 year plan. You also see what work was done in 2020. And so you might see a project that's got dollars in 20, dollars in 21, dollars in 22. And what that's telling you is that that's a multi-year project and that we're putting dollars into it over several years, and that work's going to occur over several years. So, depending on how you want to navigate it, you can just look through all the projects and then scroll over and find out what year they've got dollars in them, or you can just look at the dollars and just go down and see what year the projects are. But these pages here are a component of the city budget. And again, that's transmitted to the city commission. So at this point, we can kind of just flip through the sheets just so everybody can kind of see what is on there. And you see that, you know, each department will sum out at the bottom. So they'll say total information technology, you know, the total amount expenditures for IT would be in bold under the appropriate year. And, you know, so you can just kind of scroll through that and see all the different work across every single line item project, capital projects for the city. So at this point, this pretty much concludes my presentation. If there's, you know, I'll turn it back over to Planner Anderson, and I am available for questions if we need to.
Thank you, Director Baker.
Yes, thank you very much for that great presentation. Does anyone have any questions at this time for Director Baker? I think you covered everything. Nice job. Not seeing any questions. We do need to make a motion. We are recommending approval of the capital improvement plan to the city commission. So would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
I moved to recommend the recommend the adoption of the capital improvement plan to the city commission.
All right, motion by Greenman, right? Do we have support?
Support.
Support by Chambers. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all right. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Chambers,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Greenman Wright,
Yes.
Milliken,
Yes.
Patalco,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Wissner.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you again for the presentation and all staff for your presentations tonight. A lot of great work that he's doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. At this point, we have citizen comments. Have there been any citizen comments on non-agenda items left for us?
There was one public comment.
All right. If we can have that now, that'd be great.
All right.
Is it an empty message?
Oh, can you hear it?
We heard nothing.
No, it did not play.
Okay. All right, hold on.
I get those a lot sometimes.
Okay, let's try this again.
Hi, my name is Tina McClinton, and I was calling because our city is trying to take away our last green space in Southtown neighborhood. And I'm going to bring it up every time I can. Christina Anderson, you need to help us protect our green space, not take it away from us. We flood, and on Lake and Stockbridge, we flood really bad. And I'm hoping people will be against the destruction of our natural features, which is a green space. It has a watershed, it has a lot of wildlife and habitat that lives there. And no one will listen to our plan. No one will no one helps us when we flood. And there is a meeting on the 10th. First we was at the Natural Features Protection, which they were going to help us. And now all of a sudden there's a meeting on the 10th of December to destroy the last green space in Southtown neighborhood. We need this green space to survive. It helps us with flooding. I'm a senior, and I'll call it every meeting I have the night off. I have to work 2 jobs to be able to afford to put a furnace and a water heater in every 1 to 2 years. So my comment is to help save our natural green space on Lake and Stockbridge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That was the one citizen comment. City Commission liaison, Mr. Urban, any comment?
Well, yes, I just was thinking about all the time that people were waiting to speak and speaking during the presentation on the 3-year master plan update progress. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of progress. And for me to sit here and realize that this is actually implementing a plan. I mean, that's almost unheard of in the city. I mean, really. And you still are going great guns, and you're still inviting public participation in spite of COVID. I mean, I want to just amplify all the things that you said, Chairman Milliken, in appreciation of what they're doing. Now, these guys are going to have to give the same talk to the City Commission on Monday. So I got a preview of it. I'm going to get to hear it twice. And it's so energizing that I'm going to enjoy hearing it twice. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And you can pass along our thoughts to the rest of the commissioners at that meeting.
Sure.
City planners report.
So a couple things. I thought that we would have kind of a detailed discussion on, discussion about engagement and zoning things coming forward. I think we've already been going for 2 hours, and I'm not sure that we'll have a great conversation at this point in the evening. And so I want to have that conversation with this group. I think it's important for the work that's coming forward. I'm not sure tonight is probably going to be the most productive. So we'll send around, either we'll do it at the January meeting if we don't have extra cases or a big caseload, or perhaps it's a special meeting that we need to have. What I will say is that we do have one zoning thing in the works right now. This has been in the works since January, actually. We had public meetings in January, February, March-ish in the East Side neighborhood, well, in several neighborhoods to do zoning work. We were able to have multiple in the East Side neighborhood to the point where they came to consensus and a conclusion on updating the map for the area around East Main and East Michigan, and then COVID paused us. We're in the process of working to restart that process because there's a lot of activity going on in the East Side neighborhood. A new business development group, which is looking at doing facade work and sign work, of which the zoning is going to support that. There's land bank project in the area that the zoning would support. And so we need to bring it back forward again. So right before Thanksgiving, because the area is relatively small, it's about 115 parcels that we're talking about. We went door to door and hung door hangers, like you saw in the presentation that we used for the traffic calming, to alert everybody that this project was coming back, let them know how they could get information, the hotline number, my email. And we did that in advance of what ultimately will come as a zoning notice, either for the January meeting or the February meeting, but to get the ball back rolling and remind everybody about the project. And again, to answer any questions. So that could come forward in January. It would be February at the latest. Again, there's some drive behind getting this work done. Yeah, so I think I just wanted to make sure that I updated you on that. And that's all I have.
Okay. That moves us to miscellaneous comments by planning commissioners. Let's just go around my horn here. Mr. Patelko, anything? And don't feel pressure, but
You'll be well, everyone.
there you go. Mr. Wisner,
Nothing further, thanks.
Ms. Chambers,
Just have a happy holiday and be safe and look forward to 2021.
Ms. Fitz,
Yes, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I enjoyed the presentation, and I'm really looking forward to 2021 in the city of Kalamazoo. I'm happy to be a part in the great work that's going on, especially during the pandemic. So thank you, everybody.
Ms. Greenman Wright,
Just want to wish everyone a happy holiday season and to really thank the city staff for a really impressive capital improvement project presentation, as well as our master plan progress. It was actually really great to see all the different representation from the different departments. And sorry about the cat cameo. I was sitting in her chair. Anyway, hope you guys have a great night and look forward to seeing you next year.
Mr. Fitz,
Okay, I would like to say happy holidays to everyone. I'll be sending my Christmas list out to everybody. You know, if you want to buy me anything for Christmas, no, but I do believe that 2021 will be a great year for us, and I wish that everyone be safe and have a spectacular finish up of this year. That's it. Thanks.
thank you. I'm not sure I could say it any better than that. Have a wonderful holidays. Be safe, everybody. Yeah, we'll see you all next year. If we don't see sooner, I look forward to that conversation, Christine. I think that'll be an important one for our group. So, if we need to have a special meeting, I think that'll be an important thing for us to do, and we may have to. And so we know that as a commission. And so that might yet be, we might have another opportunity to wish each other a happy holiday. So, and that'll be okay. All right. Thanks everybody for your dedication to this meeting. Thanks to the staff for your participation. Happy holidays. Enjoy some cocoa and some movies, and we're adjourned. Bye.